High School Hype Squad coming up. Week 6 of the high school football season. We'll go over our TNL top 10, and we'll go over our matchup of the week, which is Harlan versus Marshall, coming up tonight in Ferris Stadium. Obviously, I have my Taco Cabana Thursday Night Lights shirt on. I want to start with Piper. I was going to put, what surprised you the most, but the game Piper played on Friday night against Smithson Valley was one of the best high school football games I've seen in my entire life. Piper now 5-0. They won the game against Smithson Valley 39-36. Absolutely insane game. Piper was up, I believe it was 32-29, and they had the ball with 3 minutes left. They basically had to run out the clock, but they were on their own 5-yard line. Fumble. Smithson Valley recovers it on Piper's 5. They go into score. They take the lead 32-36. Seemed like a blink of an eye later, Piper is scoring a touchdown. They win the game 39-36. Smithson Valley, an incredibly emotional loss for them because most of the kids that play at Piper right now used to go to Smithson Valley. So I just not enough can be said about how good of a job Nick Rogers is doing. They're now the 8th ranked 5A D1 team in the state after a win over Smithson Valley. So they're going into a bye week. They play Seguin next Friday, October 11th. Just not enough can be said about how good of a job Nick Rogers and Caden Keith and Isaiah Champagne and all those guys are doing up there.
100% rubber stamp what you just said. I couldn't have said it any better. I mean, you
they're
saw
phenomenal.
it, you were there. So
yeah, they're phenomenal, man. I want to talk about Alamo Heights a little bit. They defeated they defeated Bernie last week. They beat, I think the game was 35-28 against Bernie. They were tied at 21 at halftime. That was probably their toughest game of the season. That was now their 29th straight district win for them, which is really saying something for Alamo Heights because their old district, no disrespect to all the teams in that SAISD league, but Alamo Heights was the cream of the crop in that league. And now that they're now in a new 5A league, they're beating teams like Bernie. It shows you how good this team really is.
No doubt, because Bernie's really, really good, really, really
Shea
talented.
Hendricks does a great job with them there.
100%. So, maybe, again, I'm sure I'm like you. I mean, this whole 5A, these teams that are in 5A really give you goosebumps about what might be at the very, very, very end of the year.
Yeah, and Alamo Heights is now the 3rd-ranked team in the state according to Dave Campbell's 5A D2 rankings. This team is not just good, San Antonio good, but they're Texas good. This team has the ability to win state, and I feel like we can't understate that enough.
Right.
They are now going into Harlandale this week. I believe they're at Harlandale 7 p.m. on Friday. They have not lost to Harlandale since 1980. 1980 is the last time they lost to Harlandale. So Jeez. I think they'll continue that streak and probably win tomorrow night. Steele is our number 3 team in the TNL top 10. They're 4-1, 1-0 in district. They defeated Clemens 55-12. The Knights rebounded from their Austin Westlake loss. Obviously, they scored 50-plus points for the 3rd time this season. Don't really have to talk about that one too much. I think we're expecting Steele to dominate the rest of the season. Westlake was obviously their toughest game. They do East Central, though, this week, no pushover. They beat Bernie 52-49 2 weeks ago. They just beat Judson last week in a hell of a game. I think they went down 20. Judson scored a late touchdown with 2 minutes left, took the lead 23-22, tried to go for 2-point conversion, missed it. And then East Central comes back, gets their own touchdown, gets their own 2-point conversion, ends up winning by 7. So East Central, no pushover in this one. We're going to kind of speed through these a little bit because a lot of teams are either coming off a bye or they don't have a game this week. So Southwest, they had no game coming off a bye. They're going to play their toughest game of the year tomorrow against Southside in Dragon Stadium, 7:30. It's actually the first game in their new press box. So
all right.
Hopefully we'll send someone down there to check out the new digs. Brennan, the hottest team in Texas probably, they coming off their bye week, they are now in the Dave Campbell 6A rankings at number 24, which they deserve because they have a couple of huge wins over Harlan and Smithson Valley the last couple of weeks. Tonight they play O'Connor at Gus, 7:30 game. John Jay, I want to talk a little bit about John Jay. They are now 5-0, 3-0 in district. They beat Eagle Pass win 18-0. When the redistricting kind of came out for all the teams, you took note of John Jay because they have a lot of travel. They're going to be going to Eagle Pass, to Laredo for a lot of their 5A games, which good for them that they went down from 6A to 5A, but whole lot of travel for a high school team. They're now 5-0, 3-0 in district. Looks like they're going to start running away with this stuff. So what does that say about Gary Gutierrez and that squad to get his team ready and travel all that much?
And you think about what they lost last year, right? His own son included playing
over at Navy. Good for him.
But they're doing it differently, right? This, like, D'ing up, like, you're shutting out guys. I don't care who it is. I mean, Eagle Pass, they're used to playing, or Eagle Pass win. I mean, those Eagle Pass schools are used to playing San Antonio schools. I mean, to be shutting down teams like that, and then they had a close, low-scoring game the week before, too, if I'm not
9-3,
mistaken.
I believe.
So, I mean, hats off to the John Jay defense, bowing up.
I believe they've only allowed 155 combined yards in the last 2 weeks.
No kidding.
Yeah, I believe I read that this morning.
Sounds like a story.
I mean, maybe we got to get out there. Right. They're on a bye this week. They play Laredo Figueroa October 10th at Gus next week. New Braunfels, close game against Victoria East, 23-21. They're now 4-1, 2-0 in district. They have a bye week this week. They scored all 23 of their points in the second quarter. Ended up holding on for a win against Victoria East. Their next game is against Bernie Champion, 7 p.m. I believe it's tomorrow. Taft is number 8 in our TNL top 10. We're going to get into Taft a little bit right now because, oh my God, what a TNL game we had last week. They're 4-1 now, 3-0 in district. They're coming into a bye week, but they were down to Stevens. They ended up beating them last week on TNL 28-27. And got to be honest, going into the game, I thought Taft was going to roll them. They end up down in the third quarter 27-7 to Stevens, who runs the flex bone over there. And Coach Boykin does a great job with it.
Yep.
I was floored that the score was what it was, 27-7, and then Taft starts finally getting their legs in the fourth quarter. They end up scoring late in the fourth and winning the game 28-27. It was insane, and Ricky, you could tell how happy Ricky State was after the game.
I'm surprised he didn't try to body check you.
I thought he was going to. Yeah. No, I mean, just talk a little bit about that game, Chuck. It was phenomenal.
No, it really was. I think. What resonates with me after a game like that is, when we heard Coach Stade talking about the return to culture, we had some guys that grew up in the program, so they knew what was expected. And then Coach Stade felt like, he said, I felt like maybe it was a little stagnant and maybe a little laxed. We got a bunch of kids that weren't here when we first started, so they went back to their roots, reaffirmed with the coaching staff, this is what we want. And you feel like when you win a game like that maybe some of those lessons or some of the plans that they had in place to try to build culture maybe reared its head in a time like that. I mean, you never know. Maybe that's an absolutely horrible stretch, or maybe it was just, damn fine football team coming back and winning a ball game after it didn't put its best foot forward. But no matter what it happens, those are the moments that you see, a lot of things come out and didn't see it coming. I can tell you when it was 27-7. That's 100%. For sure.
100%. East Central comes in at number 9, 4-1, 1-0 in district. They just defeated Judson 30-23. Talked about how entertaining that game was. The Hornets off to a good start in their quest for their second winning season in the last 10 years. So hopefully they can do that. I think I speak for everyone when I think they'll be 4-2 when we have this talk to this point next week because they play Steele tomorrow. They play Steele tomorrow 7:30 at Lenhoff.
I'm curious to see what they do, right? Because I full disclosure, I haven't seen them play at all this year, but I know Coach Hubbard does a great job there. So I'm curious to see what they do against Steele. I know they'll be ready for that fight. So let's go. Bring it on.
Smithson Valley coming in at number 10, 3-2 this season. Those 2 losses are by 3 points to Piper and by, I believe, 11 points to Brennan, who's a 6A team. So I don't hold those 2 losses against them. Those are 2 of the best teams in the state. So 3-2, 0-1 in district. Next game, they have a bye week this week to kind of lick their wounds after that emotional loss. Next game is against Wagner next Friday at Ranger Stadium. Let's talk about our TNL matchup of the week real quick before we get out of here. Harlan, 3-1. They scored 57 points last week in their win against O'Connor. It was a close game. I went to that one to shoot for us, and it was close at first. Guys going back and forth. O'Connor actually had a 17-10 lead, and then Harlan just took over in the second half. Whole lot of really good players left because of graduation. Elijah Walton, who was our defensive player of the year last year on the News 4 side. Noah Ferris, obviously their all-everything quarterback, left because of graduation. What does that make this team now as a Harlan Eddie Salas coach team?
So they got a lot of dudes still. So they're going to be okay in the athlete department. But I think what makes this matchup tonight fascinating to me is that Marshall's strength is running the football. Harlan's weakness to this point has been stopping the run. And they're trying some different things. They've got a different scheme. They've got some new coaches. So, again, it's a long season and kids are trying to grow up in the system. But Eddie Salas made it a point to say this week, it's like, look, we're at the point in the season where no more excuses for we're learning. It's a new scheme. We've got new coaches. They feel like they've got the talent to be able to execute better in some of their weaknesses. And as we know, Eddie's teams get better week by week. A lot of these teams do. I'm not just singling him out for that, but he's a damn good coach. And he's going to get these guys ready to play. Having said that, Marshall, they had Taft on the ropes. They had 4 turnovers in that game, still had him on the ropes. This is a team that if they protect the ball, they can dictate how you play football if they can control the football and make sure, more importantly, if they can protect the football. So I'm super curious to see how it plays out because, like you, Matt, I thought last week was going to look a certain way, and next thing you know, nope. Because you know what, Stevens is well coached. They got some dudes too, and they're young in certain areas, and they're all growing up. So how big of a leap is Marshall going to make this week? Harlan on a short week. A lot of moving parts here, but that's why we tee it up, right? I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, Tim Williams is a great coach too.
Yep.
We didn't get a chance to talk to Tim Williams this week. We talked to Coach Salas, who we'll hear from in just one second. But Marshall and Harlan always kind of circled on your schedule. You like to see how these teams match up, and Marshall kind of gives you those Stevens kind of vibes where they do a lot of different things to where they can stay competitive with bigger schools like Harlan and all those guys. So it's going to be a really interesting matchup tonight. I think you laid that out really well. It's kind of strength versus weakness on both sides of the ball for these guys. But Harlan can score a lot of points.
They got some dudes.
They're gonna stress out Marshall's defense, especially Peyton Matthews. Yep. Peyton
Stud.
Matthews is phenomenal. He's a great multi-sport athlete over at Harlan, and I'm going to be really entertained just watching him from the sidelines.
I'm disappointed. I heard this week from Coach Salas that Peyton Matthews, he didn't nominate him for our high school all-star game.
Boo.
The reason why? As soon as he gets his GED, he's off to Rice.
Yep.
So he won't be available because he'll be playing college football. I mean,
I guess that's right.
Sad for us. Obviously, great kid. And,
we got to vote. We got to vote on that on Monday.
If you're going to Rice to play football, man, you're elite in more than just athletics. Let me tell you.
All right, let's hear from Coach Salas, and then we'll get out of here.
Team looks like they're doing really well this season. You got the one blemish, but it was like, how has Coach been able to access what you guys have been able to do so far?
I'll tell you what, it's been a great growth year for us. We have a pretty experienced offense minus the top spot at quarterback, right? And so it's been a lot of fun being able to coach that position, making sure that position is growing exponentially, and it has been, and so we're excited for his growth. We did have another quarterback get injured early, and we're excited to get him back in a couple of weeks, and so, from the offensive perspective, I think we're heading the right direction. On the defensive side, new coordinator, new scheme, new kids. We have 3 returners only coming back. But I'm going to tell you, it's been a lot of fun coaching that group because, they're hungry to learn. They accepted the change, and they're fighting through it. And I'm going to tell you, every week it's showing how good they can be.
You said something that's very interesting. I've heard this said from Coach Pop a handful of times. He really enjoys the teaching of the young guys on how to play professional NBA basketball. You seem to enjoy that same thing. What is it about taking these young kids and molding them into the great athletes that you guys are working on? What makes that so special for you coaches?
I think as coaches, once you have a couple of kids for 2 years or so, man, it's kind of routine for them, and they kind of get it, and you're giving them little nuggets here and there. But when you take a player who's young, has no bad habits, right, and he's capable but doesn't know anything on scheme, position, anything, to see him grow exponentially every day, you watch him on film, that's what coaching is about. That's why I love and enjoy doing it. I don't want to have a team that's obviously not experienced at all, but it's really nice to see that. And then with the older guys, as they're getting older, you get to teach, leadership. You know, there's more in leadership there, but the younger ones, you're teaching skills to get through these games and be successful. And so I love it, enjoy it. I could go home every day and go, man, I made a difference.
What's keeping you up when you're watching this film on this Marshall team that they're going to present some challenges for you guys?
You know, we haven't played Marshall in many years, you know, and I know Coach Williams does an amazing job at outflanking players, teams and movement and so forth. And so it's a challenge. Marshall has always had tough kids that play hard, run hard, tackle. I mean, they do all the things they need to do right. And for us, it's a challenge. We still have a young defense, and we want our kids to match that intensity, you know. And so for me, the challenge is where are we at now? You know, we always feel like instead of looking at just our opponent, we look at ourselves and go, where are we at? Where do we stand? Did we get better from a week ago? Did we get better from yesterday? And I think if we keep going in that direction, good things will continue to happen for us.
Always good to hear from Coach Salas, and I can't wait to tee it up in here in just, about 8 hours.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm always looking forward to this too, man. Ferris Stadium, backyard brawl. Let's go.
All right, that's all we got for you today on the Sneakers Cleats podcast. Remember to download, rate, review, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, tell a friend, tell an enemy. We will see you right back here for some more Spurs and hopefully Cowboys victory Monday coverage on Monday. We'll see you then.